Everything he says makes no sense if you think Palestinians are human beings worthy of dignity, worthy of a life of freedom. It's that simple, really. I promise. Like, I'm not exaggerating. There is nothing better. Oh my God, look at Ben Shapiro looking at just fucking trying to execute this hijabi woman with his with his eyes over here.
Decades after Israel's creation, and they're not in the West Bank. So, if you're going to be arguing about Hamas, how can we ignore that over 200 Palestinians have been killed, including over 40 children, making it the deadliest year for Palestinians in the West Bank before October 7th? That does not even include the killings happening now, just in 2023. So what justification do you have for that if Israel intends to, quote unquote, go after Hamas, is killing many people, especially children, under the justification of Hamas? So what justification do you have of them targeting the West Bank, even if we were to buy anything you said, which honestly I'm questioning?
Have you considered the fact that I'm incredibly racist and assume that all Arabs love Hamas and they are Hamas, and therefore I'm going to make an argument to do pogroms in the West Bank because they're also Hamas? Get wrecked. And then all of my dumbass dick riders are gonna fucking clap because they are perma-stuck, never getting pussy for the rest of their fucking lives because they're young Republicans, young Tories in the UK. So the only thing that keeps them going is just like the thrill of debate. Because they are just fucking deeply unlikable humans.
Sure. So the casualties that have been incurred in the West Bank are prior to October 7th largely. There have been many since October 7th because there have been many conflagrations between the IDF and the Palestinian Authority and Islamic Jihad members in the West Bank. There's significant violence over the course of the early part of this year. There's a breakaway group from the Palestinian Authority. It's called the Lions. The Lions were a small terrorist cell, the Lions Den. They were committing acts of terror in places ranging from Jerusalem to areas of the West Bank. And the IDF was going in and making operational decisions to kill many terrorists in these areas.
Yeah, he did it. He did exactly what I said. He did exactly what I said. He said literally, no, the IDF is killing terrorists in the West Bank. Yeah, the IDF, which by the way, is currently, if we're looking at international law, what the IDF is doing in the West Bank is terror. What Palestinians do in the West Bank is self-defense and perfectly legal. You need to understand this. When Ben Shapiro talks about the West Bank and says the IDF has to occupy that area and they have to go and kill people, he is 100% in the wrong, okay? That is, by legal definitions, by international law, an act of terror. This is an indefensible act of terror that every single person with a conscience, and even plenty of people in Israel who otherwise are currently championing the fucking death and destruction of Gaza, would agree to. So remember that. When Ben talks about the West Bank and says, well, the IDF is like cleaning up terror there, bullshit. The IDF is doing terror in this region that they are occupying illegally. Completely unacceptable. It is immoral and it is illegal. Not many get the Monty there, okay? Not many acts are both illegal and immoral at the same time. Usually there's a lot of acts that are moral but still technically not covered under the law, like legally permissible and yet still moral. For example, an act of violence against a slaver would be illegal and yet moral. Do you understand? Whereas in this circumstance, in the West Bank, any kind of action that Palestinians take towards the occupying force is both moral and legal. Okay? Like 100%. And you rarely ever get that. You rarely ever get a situation where you're in the pocket entirely. Okay? So, understand that. So, you know, everyone needs to recognize that Ben Shapiro is a fucking liar and a son of a bitch for making it seem like this, that these are like terrorists. It's like, no, they're not. They are the standing military of their own fucking land that you are unjustifiably occupying, okay? The same goes for Lebanon. When Israel invaded and Israel was trying to fucking destroy Lebanon, every act of resistance against the IDF was legal. Was not only legal, but also moral. Same with Iraq. Same with Afghanistan. When America goes into another country and invades another country, resistance to that invasion doesn't matter what our fucking fifis are about the matter, okay? Doesn't matter what mainstream media tells you, okay? It is perfectly legal and perfectly moral to resist against an occupying force, okay? I'm not saying the same thing about Israel proper. There is a distinction there, and that's an important one, okay? Which is why when I hear so many people try to conflate my perspective on the matter, they always say, oh, Hasan's talking about settlers. Like, he means like all Israelis are violently settling. It is not 1948, okay? It's not. It's not 1948. It's not 1967. It's 2023. The morality is obvious, but legal under what? Under international law. Anyway.
There are many areas in the West Bank that have been particularly infiltrated by terrorism. That the city of Jenin would be probably the example of.
Like, that's ridiculous. He's talking about like the Jenin Brigade, right? Like, oh, the city of Jenin is actually infiltrated by terrorists. You don't get to make that distinction. You can't say that. Like, that's a ridiculous thing, dude. It's like, there is no difference. It's literally like Palestinians saying, technically, it's like Palestinians saying, technically, all of Israel proper is overtaken by a terrorist cell. It's called the IDF. You know what I mean? What's the point of international law if there's no mechanism to enforce it? I mean, it's just, I don't know. These guys are supposedly liberals in a rule-based international order, so that's why I keep bringing up the international law perspective. I mean, usually it's international law is just like written by the victors to bully those who are not in the sphere of influence. It's pure hypocrisy, ultimately. Yeah, international law is used to legitimize the current hegemony. Yeah, here it is. This is from 1975. Universal realization of the right to people's self-determination and of speedy granting independence to colonial countries and peoples for the effective guarantee and observance of human rights. I think this is where it's from. Decolonialization. I'll find it in a sec. Settling is violent itself, but there are malicious settlers and settlers. Nonetheless, we all want innocents to live. Sadly, the other side can't even whisper the word ceasefire due to their racism and hatred. So, anyway, ultimately, Chatter sent me this link. It's in Arabic, dude. Here, let me see if I can find it in English. Yeah. Reaffirms the inalienable right of all peoples under colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation to self-determination, freedom, and independence in conformity with General Assembly Resolution 1514 and other relevant resolutions in the United Nations. 2, renews call to all states to recognize the right of self-determination and independence of all peoples subject to colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation, and to offer them moral, material, and other forms of assistance in their struggle to exercise fully their inalienable right to self-determination and independence. 3, reaffirms the legitimacy of people's struggle for liberation from colonial and foreign domination and alien subjugation by all available means, including armed struggle. That's the key here. 4, demands full respect to the basic human rights of all individuals detained or imprisoned as a result of their struggle for self-determination and independence, and strict respect for Article 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, under which no one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhuman, degrading treatment, and their immediate release, which also is another thing that Israel violates regularly. 5, welcomes the recognition of governments of Portugal to the right of all peoples under its colonial administration of self-determination and independence. 6, urges the government of Portugal to continue to ensure the process of decolonialization. Okay, so do you not realize that all of Palestine is colonized? It's not just the West Bank. How can you say Israel proper is different? The whole country is a settler colony. Yes, it doesn't matter. There's 9 million people there. And also, your perspective on the matter is not even the fucking popular perspective on the matter. Your perspective on the matter is not even like a perspective that more popular groups have held since like 1967. Okay? So it is a ridiculous fucking argument to continue pushing, especially because it's unhelpful, and also it would require a tremendous amount of violence. It's the same as like America. Okay? The United States of America is a settler colony, and we are hundreds of years into our violent actions at this point. To turn around and say that like people that have been here for 30 generations have to be violently removed from the land would be ridiculous. It would be, and I don't even think any fucking Native American land back movement revolves around this, okay? Which is always funny because people go, oh, dude, you just want to violently fucking kill everyone in New York and give it to the Native Americans. I don't think that indigenous people in America should murder Americans. I just think they should be in control of their land again. I agree with what you're saying, okay? This is why I say a one-state solution in my opinion, is a less violent solution than a two-state solution, because a two-state solution requires the forcible expulsion of 400,000 settlers living in the West Bank right now in order to offer Palestinians a nation state with contiguity. This is, by the way, what would be legal. It would be the first step in the legal process of ridding the West Bank of an unjustifiable, immoral, and very violent occupation that has made Israel into an apartheid state since 1967. Okay? So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to fucking violently have almost 500,000 Israelis, and then we have the Jerusalem problem as well, which, you know, that is another at least 200 to 300,000 people living there in East Jerusalem, occupied East Jerusalem. So even if you were to just look at only the West Bank, there is still 450,000 settlers living in the West Bank. Okay? They have been delicately partitioning Palestinian villages with the specific purpose of, like, you know, robbing them of their own land, which they have. It's like 75% of the entirety of West Bank is now occupied. 100% of the West Bank is occupied by the IDF, but 75% of the land is like directly now overtaken by Israeli forces or Israeli citizens. Settlers that live in the West Bank are in their everyday engaging in an act of terror. Settler colonial terrorism. That is what they are doing. Okay? 100%. Now, what is to be done? They have partitioned all of the Palestinian territories in the West Bank to 3 areas, which even then they also occupy some of those areas as well. I used to be a two-stater as well, for the record. I am no longer a two-state solutioner, okay? I'm a one-stater for this reason, because there is no way out of this. This is an idea that the PFLP also was aware of, and even the PLO was aware of from the jump. From like the 60s onwards, many of the popular movements were in recognition of a one-state solution being the only way to go about it, a secular one-state. Time and time again, they openly also mentioned that despite the fact that they were interested in violent emancipation, given how violent the colonial occupation was, they openly stated that they would not forcibly expel Jews from the land. That the idea, for the most part, okay, is that much like in Algeria, if there was if there was a post-colonial movement that succeeded, the Jewish population that wanted to stay there could absolutely stay there, and yet many would just simply flee somewhere else, okay? Flee back to Europe, flee back to another country, and that inherently is definitely violent. I understand that. This is precisely the reason why, as tactics evolved and as the apartheid regime evolved and calcified and solidified itself as a permanent fixture in the Middle East, a systemic subjugating factor on Palestinian populations, that there was increased Jewish population in the area in Israel as the country's population grew to 9 million. 25% of which are still Palestinian citizens of Israel. The understanding shifted as well. I'm French Algerian Jew, Sephardi Haredim, and I also have lots of Muslim family, but we are anti-Zionist. Don't forget, a two-state solution is also impossible, because remember what happened when Gaza settlers were forced out of Gaza? If the IDF did the same in the West Bank, it would become Algeria in 1960, i.e. a pseudo-civil mutiny of sorts where members of the IDF side with the settlers, etc. Yeah, there's also that aspect too. In 2005, the Israeli government forcibly pulled out all of the settlers from the Gaza Strip. Okay? They acted like this was an act of kindness when it was not. When they forcibly pulled out the settlers, they had 8,000 settlers that were living in the Gaza Strip. They forcibly pulled them out. Remember those like greenhouses that all Zionists love talking about, the greenhouses? They had greenhouses, and they like, you know, the Palestinian Arab dogs don't know how to deal with the greenhouses. You know who fucking destroyed those greenhouses? The motherfucking settlers did. They broke down the majority of the greenhouses. And the Israeli government that was supposed to fucking, teach them how to use the greenhouses didn't do that, didn't offer material support, and actually cut the water to those greenhouses that were coming in from Israel proper. Anyway, that's besides the point. My point is, those 8,000 settlers were violently removed by the IDF from the settlements that they lived in. That was an act of violence. It was an act of understandable violence, but it was an act of violence nonetheless. Where did those settlers go? They didn't live in Israel proper. They fucking got shifted over to the West Bank. Yeah, they took them and they put them in West Bank. So here, yeah, this document here. This is from 1969. Okay, you said Control F democratic solution for PLFP's. Yeah, here. This is the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which was formed after, what was it, like 2 different groups merged. I think it was like the Revenge. Hold on. I don't want to fuck this up. I'm going to give you the actual group. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine is the second largest faction and the main opposition force to Fatah within the PLO. Okay? The PFLP, which styles itself as a revolutionary socialist group, has been in decline since the 1980s following the collapse of the Soviet Union, which had been its chief benefactor. Its standing has been further challenged by the emergence of non-PLO groups such as Hamas and Islamic Jihad. The group was co-founded by George Habash, Naif Hawatmeh, Wadi Haddad, and Ahmad Jibril as an umbrella organization for Marxist-Leninist and Arab nationalist groups. It still exists, but it is like around 3% popularity at this point. Okay, when you say, no, stop, Arab nationalism will never work, what you also fail to consider is that the original formation of Arab nationalism was supposed to be a post-colonial action. Many of these Arab nationalist groups that were inherently Marxist-Leninist were no different than Pan-African nationalist movements that were occurring against colonial violence and colonial occupation. So it was an anti-imperialist movement. It was not necessarily a nationalist movement that was born out of a nationalist movement that you would see here right now. This is a very important distinction that I make all the fucking time. I try to explain this to Americans all the time. Nationalist movements, after you have already established a nation state, are inherently violent and oftentimes fascist. Nationalist movements, like the IRA, for example, are anti-colonial actions. They're anti-imperialist, anti-colonial movements. They are created to specifically engage in an act of emancipation. Anyway, the group was co-founded in 1967 by George Habash. I said the PLFP opposes serving in governments under the Palestinian Authority and has been critical of their policies, particularly regarding security coordination with Israel. Okay, which is very unpopular. The Palestinian Authority's security cooperation with Israel is seen as a gross stain. And why wouldn't they feel that way? Because the Palestinian Authority is basically a part of the security apparatus of Israel that dominates people's lives, engaging in an act of unjustifiable violence in the West Bank against Palestinians that live there in their own fucking homes, in their own ancestral homes that they've lived for hundreds of fucking years. It is widely seen as betrayal. The reason why that's important for many of you to understand is because every single time, every single step of the way, whenever Palestinians have cooperated with the Israeli government has used them as a weapon against Palestinians rather than offering them the reasonable conciliatory demands that they were making. Autonomy, a right to self-determination. The Israeli government has literally fucking utilized the conciliatory Palestinian groups that started off very popular. Okay, 83% that started off very popular, that put down their arms in an effort to engage with the Israeli government as equal actors, even though they were never equal actors at all. These are the guys. These are the guys that got fucked over deliberately by design. Okay, something to always consider when you're like, how did Hamas came to be? Is it because Muslims are violent barbarians who just like want to do anti-Jewish hate crimes in the name of Allah? Or is it because Israel very purposefully, as a part of its state policy, both openly and quietly, always wanted to deal with more militant factions that they could cast away as terror cells because they knew that its continuation required Western cooperation? Okay? And how do you continue Western cooperation? Well, you take all of the fucking guys that are, that deal with the American administration, that literally get funding from the CIA, like Arafat or others under Arafat in Fatah, and make sure that they are only seen as a part of the Israeli security apparatus so that people recognize that they're not getting anything done. Anyway, the democratic solution: rejection of the chauvinistic and reactionary Zionist colonial solutions, which are based on recognizing the state of Israel as one of the facts of the Middle East area, because these solutions, besides contradicting the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination in their land, consecrate the Zionist expansion entity in liaison with colonialism and are hostile to the Palestinian and Arab national movements and are all the progressive and socialist forces in the world. Number 2, rejection of the chauvinistic solutions of some Palestinians and Arabs, which were put forward before and after June 1967 and are based on the slaughtering the Jews and throwing them into the sea. Like, the founding charter of significantly more popular movements openly fucking, or time and time again has reinforced this value that it is not about throwing the Jews into the sea, knowing full well that that is how it will be represented regardless. No, it's not a guess. It's my food. It also rejects the reactionary solutions, which are based on accepting the state of Israel within secure and recognized boundaries as exemplified in the November Security Council resolution. The aforementioned solutions are put forward at the expense of the right of the Palestinians to self-determination in their land, and because the solutions implanted in the Middle East area are a racist, capitalist, expansionist state dialectically in liaison with the world capitalism, which is hostile to Palestinian and Arab national liberation movements, and are all the progressive and socialist forces in the world. Number 3, the struggle for a popular democratic solution for the Palestinian and Israeli questions to be based on the liquidation of the Zionist entity exemplified in all government establishments, army, administration, police, and all the chauvinistic Zionist political and labor organizations. The establishment of a People's Democratic Palestinian state in which the Arabs and the Israeli Jews will live without any discrimination whatsoever. The establishment of, I'm going to repeat that one more time for those of you who are dense and are unfamiliar. This is why the from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, being like being a concept that like isn't being a concept that just like means forcible expulsion and death and destruction to all Jews is not correct. The establishment of a People's Democratic Palestinian state in which the Arabs and Israeli Jews will live without any discrimination whatsoever. A state which is against all forms of class and national subjugation and which gives both Arabs and Israeli Jews the right to develop their national culture. Okay? That's it. The Popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine calls on all the Israeli and Jewish elements and groupings who are hostile to Zionism and imperialism to support the above-mentioned solution and participate in the common Palestinian and people's armed struggle for the implementation of this democratic revolutionary solution. This is from the basic political documents of the Armed Palestinian Resistance Movement. And this chapter is specifically a democratic solution to the Palestine question. Basic political documents of the armed Palestinian Resistance Movement from 1969, the Palestine Liberation Organization Research Center. I believe the chapter that we read was the Popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine and not the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. But the movements at the time, notice how there is no Hamas here because it did not exist. Okay? Because Hamas was not a thing. Hamas was founded in 1973 as a fucking Islamic charity. Its founding charter in 1988 as a political entity, while they were incredibly unpopular. Yes, that's mine. Thank you. Happened in 1988. The notion that these fucking guys are in any way, shape, or form anything but an offshoot of Palestinian resistance that basically shows the destruction of Palestinian lives as a resistance movement to the increasing brutality of the occupying regime, the increasing brutality of the Israeli apartheid state. That is what created Hamas, okay? And even Hamas itself, in 2017, in an effort to get international recognition, chose to update their charter. And they did. And their charter is now woke. But that doesn't really matter. Everybody always talks about the 1988 charter because it's impossible to have that conversation. And also, there are still, at its leadership at least, Islamist elements. That in and of itself is true. Doesn't matter if the pre-2017, post-2017 Hamas, and the government entity that has to engage in civic duties is very different. You have to start pronouncing your own name with the Hasan. Yeah. Now let's read the Likud charter. I will not do that because I feel like if I read you the Likud charter, I would get banned, or rather, if I read you the Likud charter, I would get NetzDG hit by NetzDG, and this entire stream would be area locked in Germany because they would go, hey, that's fascist and illegal to read. Yes, I mean it. I have read the Likud charter. I'm going to tell you right now, everything that Zionists attribute to how violent Palestinians are. Pure projection. They did cut ties with the Muslim Brotherhood in 2017, but they never was accepted by the Muslim Brotherhood for the violent arm. Cutting ties was to gain Iranian support. What's your opinion on calling this a war between Israel and Palestine, and if anything between Israel and Hamas, but I'm unsure of what to call it? I call it ethnic cleansing because that's what I think it is. Menachem Begin was a full-blown terrorist in 1948, yes. The reason they pronounce it Hamas is because the equivalent of the Arabic letter KH is Heth, which Israeli pronounces a voiceless uvular fricative, KH, although it is actually pronounced as a voiceless pharyngeal fricative, Ha. In Judeo-Arabic, like it is in Arabic, by the way, that's the letter Chaya Rachik's name starts with, so it's actually Chaya, not Tachaya. Yeah. God damn, dude. Linguistic perverts in the chat. PFLP also explicitly called for a one democratic state with equal... hold on. Here. What we read was a popular Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which is supposed to be, I think, like, it turned into a Maoist one, right? I mean, what it is now is very different than... Oh, God. It's too big of a fucking document. What page is it on, you said? 224. And Likud isn't even the most right-wing party and isn't real. Yeah. It's now the DFLP, the Democratic Front for the Liberation of Palestine, and PFLP, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. They have very limited popularity in comparison to other movements still. Of course, there's going to be splits in any kind of Marxist-Leninist formation because no matter what the cause, the uniting cause is, and Palestinian emancipation is the uniting cause for Palestinians, there's still, of course, always going to be deviations and maybe sectarian infighting. Sometimes sectarian infighting that goes into sectarian infighting that turns into violent sectarian infighting. It's great. The Palestinian Liberation Movement is not racist or hostile to the Jews. It does not aim at the Jewish people. Its aim is breaking the Israeli entity as a military, political, and economic entity based on aggression, expansion, and organic unity with the interests of imperialism in our homeland. It is against Zionism as a racist, aggressive movement, which is true. In alliance with imperialism, which has capitalized on the suffering of the Jewish people to serve its interests and those of imperialism in this rich part of the world, which is the gateway to the countries of Africa and Asia. The aim of the Palestinian Liberation Movement is the establishment of a national democratic state in Palestine, in which the Arabs and Jews can live as equal citizens with regards to the rights and duties, forming an integral part of the democratic progressive Arab national existence, which will live peacefully with all the progressive forces in the world. Israel has carefully portrayed our war against it as a racist war, aiming at the destruction of every Jewish national and throwing him into the sea. The aim behind this is the gathering together of all Jewish nationals and their mobilization for a war of life or death. A basic strategy in our war against Israel should aim at exposing such a falsification and addressing the exploited, misled Jewish masses and pointing out the contradiction between their interests in living peacefully. Do you understand when you see the infinitely more popular historic movements of Palestinian emancipation, maybe you get a better understanding as to why Hamas was used as a counterbalance, demonstrating Zionist arrogance once again, thinking, much like the Americans have time and time again, oh, we'll just push this button a little bit, we'll just help them out a little bit, and then maybe there will be divisions in the Palestinian emancipation movement, right? But the real divisions did not come from any kind of funding. The real division did not come from any kind of funding for Hamas or anything like that. The real division actually came in negotiations. This, in my opinion, is one of the most important parts of this story. This arrogance of thinking that the more Islamist, fundamentalist cutouts were going to never be taken seriously by the rest of the world, and we can always handle them violently, and no one will ever look at us and say, you guys are violent for dealing with these terrorists. That was wrong, especially because Israel thought that it could control this occupation, and that was also wrong. It was never going to be without cost. Now, there's a spiritual cost, in my opinion, because, as I always say, white supremacy also hurts white people, okay, without them realizing it. I mean, think about the popular idea that in the United States of America, why don't we have a lot of these social provisions that we normally would? In our European counterparts, they enjoy, decent public transit, healthcare, all this kind of stuff. Why do we not have these social amenities? Well, because white supremacy is a very powerful force that completely makes it permissible to advocate against our betterment because, hey, guess what? Black people are going to take advantage of that shit too. This is how it has always been packaged and sold to people. The concept of welfare queens, the concept of a mixed income urban environment that is diverse being like a bad thing. The suburbs, every single aspect of American development has been tarnished by white supremacist attitudes that end up fucking over white people too. And they champion their own demise. And the exact same thing happens in Israel. Okay? That's exactly why Israelis took it to the fucking streets and were freaking out about their last secular institution, the Supreme Court in Israel, that's supposed to uphold the values that Israel is a European-style secular nation state. The only democracy in the Middle East. Come on, guys. How did they do that? Because they lied to you and said they had to do that. They lied to you and said they had to fucking get more and more increasingly right-wing. And those right-wing elements were interested in throwing away secularism and making Israel full-blown fascist that would even harm the liberal Zionists inside of Israel. The more you learn about the history of Palestinians, the more you realize how this concept is just riddled with lies from top to bottom. Trying to talk about Palestinian emancipation by hyper-focusing on one aspect of it, by saying, oh, Hamas is the invention of ultra-Zionists. Like, they want this, like, Bibists, and the Likud party has been able to justify its increasingly more violent means of control by saying it's because we have to deal with Hamas. It's bullshit. Hamas is but a mere expression of how violent the conditions are. And throughout its history, throughout the history of Palestinian emancipation, Hamas was never a popular movement. It's only a popular movement now as a consequence of how violent this occupation has been. Anyway, let's get back to this fucking freak.
Of the place that has been most infiltrated by terror groups. It's unfortunate, but Hamas is not the only terror group in the region. Palestinian Islamic Jihad is an excellent example of another terrorist group that has wide presence in the West Bank, more so actually than Hamas. There's a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, obviously, that fell on that Gaza hospital. The entire world then tried to blame on Israel.
Yeah, that was really sad, dude. It was really fucked up. I can't believe they did that. You know, oh shit, they bombed a convoy of ambulances next to the El Shifa hospital, like, literally 3 days ago. So, like, what is the argument, man? Like, what is the argument? I want to know the Zionist argument for this. It's like, only Israel gets to kill Palestinians. If Palestinians, even by accident, kill other Palestinians, then it's wrong. It's immoral and it's wrong. Only we get to do it. Over and over again. Like, I don't even agree with him on this. I don't even agree with him on this. The whole, like, bombing the hospital shit. Like, he thinks it's a certainty because he's obviously, you know, he wants to deflect away from Israeli crimes. But even if I were to agree with him on this, like, what's the argument? One Hiroshima worth of like conventional missiles is totally valid, totally just. It's the one time the Islamic Jihad rocket that misfired. That's the fucked up part. Yeah, what are you, mad that Israel's KD is lower? Like, what?
Okay, I'm allowed to respond, right? Okay. So if your entire argument, once again, is predicated on terror groups, What response do you have about the Great March of Return, which is a very well-documented incident where peacefully Palestinian civilians just marched to their own land that they have a right to go and return?
Racism. Here you go. I'll help you. Racism. That's it. Every single argument that Ben Shapiro has is just racism. I'm not just saying that. Okay? Like, everything he says makes no fucking sense if you think Palestinians are human beings, worthy of dignity, worthy of a life of freedom. It's that simple, really. I promise. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I mean, he's written The Final Solution for Palestinians in 2003 in Town Hall. You could say that's like a long time ago, but obviously his perspective has only worsened over this time frame. He's talked about how Arabs love to blow up shit and live in sewage, but Israelis love to build. Apparently, Ben didn't even know what... Wait, what?
But they were killed, shot at, and murdered in cold blood.
What year are we talking about? Which group are we talking about? I need more specificity.
I'm talking about the Great...
He doesn't know! Stop! Stop! Fuck you! Fuck you! You animal! You fucking racist animal! He's like, what year? I need specificity, because I didn't hear about this because I didn't get updated on the Hasbara propaganda on this.
Great March of Return.
I know I'm asking for more specificity because I'm unaware of all the details of what you're speaking about.
So the Great March of Return is a well-documented...
This is pretty cool. He's like, I've never seen Ben Shapiro so obviously on the back foot. I've actually never seen him so fucking obviously. I need to know what year so I can find out which terror group I can blame. Yeah, no, there is no terror group involvement in that. Which he should have just done the racist argument and been like, well, they were terrorists. For those of you who don't know, the Great Right of Return was every Friday, Palestinian women, children, elderly, people in fucking wheelchairs, marching to the Gaza border peacefully. It was created by a poet to protest the borders and to say that Palestinians have a right to return to their own homes. The IDF sniped, no, it's not 2014, it's 2018. The IDF snipers killed around 200 people, including children, including a famous nurse that was shot and killed, which they then turned around and edited a video to lie and act like she said that she was a human shield. They killed old ladies. They shot a pregnant woman. They wounded so many people. They wounded thousands. One IDF sniper said he would take around 42 knees a day. There are even videos of snipers shooting children, like snipers filming themselves, filming their sniper rifle scope, shooting a kid. This, of course, was not really covered by, I guess, Israeli media, or it's not really talked about because, like, I mean, it's just objectively immoral and completely unacceptable, like way worse than the top of the hour ad break. Austin is laughing. Yeah, I'm going to give the 3-minute ad right now. I felt shame. I felt shame about that. I felt shame in my heart for that one. That was fucked up. It wasn't covered in mainstream media at all. Yes, because at the same time, the American embassy was being moved to Jerusalem, a cause of great celebration under the Trump administration. That's what the fuck they were covering. And the very minor coverage that was afforded to the slaughter of civilians in the hands of the IDF, which the IDF has openly taken credit for time and time again, according to internal memos, internal documents, and also even generals openly stating that we have a process of saying yes to every single shooting, like where we talk about rules of engagement every single time a sniper rifle is fired. We have every single bullet accounted for. There's an authorization process. So it was completely ruthless, completely brutal. And of course, Ben Shapiro is oblivious to it because he's a fucking donkey. He is a fucking dumbass who does not give a single fuck about the truth. He does not care about the truth. He only cares about making his fucking argument. His argument that, like, Israel is a fascist, racist, ethno-nationalist country, and it's good. And it has to exist in the way that it does, because what you would understand as a right to return and a right for dignity for all Palestinian people, which is like a liberal value, he considers a demographic nightmare. Never forget this. Every single argument you have with an ultra-Zionist will always revolve around how if you say you want a single solution, you want a single state as the only solution, they will turn around and say that a single secular, solitary state where Palestinians have a right to return is a demographic nightmare and can never be allowed. Democracy is a nightmare to those who want to maintain the apartheid state.
Documented instance where many Palestinians, after a tweet by a Palestinian, encouraged other Palestinians to go march peacefully back to their land.
Which land is theirs? What are we talking about?
Occupied Palestine.
Deflect. Dude, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. This should be studied. Yeah, he's on the back pedal. He's very quickly trying to deflect away from a fucking student debater.
Are you talking about in proper Israel? Where are we talking about? Like which areas?
We're talking about on the borders of Palestine, and we're also talking about their right to return to Palestine.
There is no right to return. If you're talking about in Palestine, if you're talking about the land that is inside the 67 borders, there is no right of return to Haifa. There's no right of return to Tel Aviv. There's no right of return to West Jerusalem.
So you have to remember that there are many, many, many elders who are older than the...
He did it. He successfully deflected away. Now she's talking about right to return. She should have said, where were the terrorists? She should have said, where were the terrorists in that march? It's good to know that the supposed brilliant Ben Shapiro sometimes has to deflect away like this. I'm going to be honest. I think I could clap him on Israel. Like, actually. I think many people with literally like an elementary understanding of Israel-Palestine could clap him. I'm not even kidding. I don't think you can. Really? Dude, he just got owned by like a 19-year-old who fucking asked about like a very important part of very recent Palestinian history. Are you kidding me? The fact that he didn't know what the fucking Great March to Return is like already, that means he doesn't know anything. I think we always assume that like people who portray themselves very confident online, and I don't think I'm one of those people. I think I'm very insecure. I don't think I'm very smart, and I always openly mention, like I say, all the time. Like I don't present myself in a super confident way. He will use your anger issues against you, says the Arabian Stallion. I think you've seen me debate people before, especially in issues where like I'm very confident in this. Like there is, I don't think that I would get angry. I'm very different in person. People think that I would yell at Ben Shapiro in the same way that I yell at a video. I think legitimately, it's not even just me. I think many people would be able to destroy Ben Shapiro on this issue because he's objectively in the wrong. Like, so objectively in the wrong that most liberals, when facing the reality, understand it, which is why he has to constantly maintain the idea that, like, anything that you say is anti-Semitic. Does that make sense? Because debates are not won or lost by the actual merits of the argument. If that was the case, then there would never, ever, ever be a debate because, like, there is the truth and then there's whatever the fuck charlatans claim it is, right? And in this situation, Ben Shapiro's already lost. Debates are won and lost by the audience reception. Are they receptive to your argument? Do they learn new things from the conversation? And on that front, given Israel being like a Western-facing democratic project that liberals love without fully realizing what that entails, the liberal tendency towards at least thinking that humanitarian rules of engagement or like international rules in the international rule-based order is always violated historically and very consistently. And if the only thing you have is national security concerns, you still can't justify maintaining an apartheid state. There is no argument for it. You can't Hamas your way out of it.
The state of Israel. You have to remember that Palestine is not a Muslim land. You are equating this to a religious conflict. It's not. When Palestine, before it was occupied, you had Jews, Christians, and Muslims peacefully coexisting. Palestine is not a Muslim homeland. It's a land that existed where many people that are alive to this day are older than the state of Israel.
So are you making the argument that any population of any time, all of their descendants now have a right to go back to the place that their great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers went?
Not great-great-great-grandfather. We have grandmothers.
Okay, grandmothers, grandfathers.
Yeah, see, we're now moving away from like we moved away from the March of Return. Like, she's just basically saying like, oh, if your great-great-great-grandfather lived there, then you can live there too. That's ridiculous. Ironically, that is the Zionist argument. So I don't know where he's going to go here, but I just want to maintain the position that he is also like shifted the conversation entirely.
Is that the idea that you can walk across the lines of any sovereign state and simply claim the place that you said that you had, even though you never established property rights, and say the Jordanian West Bank, or you
you never established property rights, dude? That's fucking nuts.
abandon this place in Haifa. So your claim is that right now people get to walk across the border of a
They abandoned it.
sovereign nation and simply set up shop in Haifa? This is your claim.
So so even if we were to buy what you're saying, which is obviously not true, I encourage you to Google about the Great March of Return, which was a peaceful resistance against the wrongful occupation of Palestine. Even if you were to buy what you were saying...
Can you just define wrongful occupation? Which part of Palestine is occupied?
You're not answering my question.
I mean, I'd like you to answer mine.
Terror groups. I gave you an example of peaceful resistance.
Yes.
I'll give you an example...
Which part of Palestine is occupied? Like, what do you mean, dude? You're the fucking smarty pants. You should figure this out, I think. Again, he's deflecting. He does not know what the Great March of Return was. Why would he know? Because it doesn't benefit him in any way. Most Americans don't know, so he doesn't have to do propaganda over it, so he hasn't established the talking points against it. This is why I'm saying it's like not that hard to debate someone like Ben Shapiro on this issue, because debates are won and lost on rhetoric, and it's important for the audience to be more receptive to your argument. And because the facts are so completely not on his side, he has to rely on broader narratives such as Islamophobia, broader narratives such as the lie that, Israel is a democratic state, is the only democratic state. Israel is a moral army. These are all lies that he can rely on because the media has also covered his ass on this front, right? This is exactly how Israel is discussed in literature, in art, and also in mainstream media for the most part. It's very quick and very easy work to counter this because there are institutions that liberals broadly agree are valid, like the Human Rights Watch, like Amnesty International, like Oxfam, or like the United Nations. Institutions that liberals have to care about because in their theoretical fantasies of a rule-based international order, these are institutions that are hailed up as like proper institutions. 2021 was a major turning point for pro-Palestinian emancipation for this reason, because 2021, at the beginning of 2021, in the spring, Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch openly admitted that Israel is an apartheid state. Israel had been an apartheid state at that point for like 50 plus years, but them admitting this was a major step, because if you're having this conversation, we're not having this conversation on the basis of morality or immorality. Everyone has already established their position on this. We're having the conversation on how you can get the broader majority of squishy libs to come to terms with this reality that we are playing a very significant role in the maintenance of an apartheid state, okay? And when you bring this up, when you openly talk about that, when Ben Shapiro claps back, for example, by saying Israel's the only democracy in the Middle East, you go, you can't be a democracy when you're an apartheid state. Israel's an apartheid state, yes or no? Is Israel an apartheid state? Ben Shapiro says no. Then you say, why do you disagree with Holocaust scholars, the Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and professionals that dedicate their entire lives to war crimes and human rights violations, that Israel is an apartheid state? How can you sit there and tell me that both Israeli activist organizations, like Israeli organizations dedicated to human rights, and numerous other former Israeli officials have declared Israel to be an apartheid state. Those who have fought and won against the South African apartheid state have always considered Israel to be an apartheid state. Why do you think your opinion is more valid in this front than all of these other people? Yes, that is an appeal to authority, because all debates, for dummies who don't know this, is about rationalizing logical fallacies. This is not debate club. This is not fucking debate club where there's like actual rules that you have to follow. This is simply having a back and forth where you're owning and ritualistically humiliating your interlocutor. That's what debates are about. Why are you arguing a fact? You can't. That's the point. You can't like go against it. Also, it's not even an appeal to authority. It's expertise. An appeal to authority would be to part of the appeal to authority would be to say like, this guy's a psychologist and he says Israel's an apartheid state. That's an appeal to an authority. That's a logical fallacy. You can still engage in that, by the way, because a lot of the logical fallacies is exactly how people debate online. Their goal is not to like arrive at a fucking truth, no matter how hard they like maintain that position. Their goal is to just ritualistically humiliate their fucking opponents. That's what debates are for, because you wanna be able to throw as many talking points as possible, know exactly what your what your opposition's talking points are, and then teach your side what those talking points are and how to deal with them, while simultaneously maybe winning over like the people in the margins, like the people in the middle that hadn't made up their minds one way or another. That's it. So Chomsky said this is worse than apartheid because at least in South Africa, white population needed the black population as their labor force. Yes, I know. You are anti-Semitic. He will say that the UN is anti-Semitic. He's going to answer anti-Semitism on every question because he can't answer, and then wins because he shuts down the conversation. Yes, but there is also a wonderful counter to that as well. The wonderful counter to that is what I do all the time, which is I use... No, I don't know if this is real or not, okay? Don't give me this shit. Don't send me this shit. But debate should aim to determine the truth. Man, come on, brother. I love you guys, but please, if you think that, like, debates online are to determine the truth, you are the silliest little Billy I've ever seen. Guys, Ben Shapiro is one of the best debaters online, okay? Does that mean he has ever determined the truth of a matter? No. He's just very good at overpowering his opponents. That's it. Because debates are all about rhetoric. You can have all the facts on your side. I'll give you an argument. I'll give you a hypothetical, an example in theory. Ben Shapiro goes up against a squeamish, bookish nerd who is a climate scientist. Okay? They get together. They're in front of a massive audience. The climate scientist, of course, is talking about well-established scientific community consensus on anthropogenic climate change. Ben Shapiro, on the other hand, is technically just, spreading filth and nonsense, but doing it in a way that overpowers his opponent. Who do you think will win that argument? In most circumstances, Ben Shapiro will win that argument. In almost all circumstances, the rhetorician is going to technically win the argument. Now, in that situation, do you consider that to be a win for determining the truth? It's it. Only in like debate club where there's rules about what you can say and what you can do and what you can't do. Only in that circumstance can you like actually kind of arrive at a truth. But even then, it doesn't matter. I think the audience in your example will be a major variable. Well, the argument is going to have the 40-40-20 principle that 40% of the audience believes in Ben Shapiro, 40% of the audience believes in the scientist, and then 20% of the audience can go in either direction. I believe personally that 20% audience is who you're going for when you're actually doing a debate, which I think is pseudo-intellectual wrestling. Yes, rhetoric is always more powerful than facts when debating. Absolutely. That's why some of the best debaters online in the debate lord community oftentimes don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And they sometimes might even go up against people who do, okay? But the people who do know what the fuck they're talking about aren't always going to be the best rhetorically. Yes, it's just about maintaining an air of intelligence and being confident. Most of the time, the most effective ways of dismantling your opponent in a debate, is to simply engage in logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are rules for debate club that you cannot actually engage with, specifically because they're cheat codes. It's a cheat. If you engage in gish galloping to the broader audience that watches you, you go, oh my God, this guy's so informed. Look at him. He's just throwing facts at me. one at a time. A lot of those facts can even be completely false. It could be a complete fabrication, but it doesn't matter because the audience is very receptive to you now, especially if you say it like this. Especially if you maintain this like autistic posture where you're very matter of fact. You have no emotions on the matter. You're just simply spitting facts, okay? Sorry. Facts over feelings. Oh, are you getting emotional? That means you've lost and I've won the argument, okay? Yeah. Even if you're not autistic, just take a posture like that and you will get a 10% buff on your debate skills. So gish galloping is again, not allowed technically. It's beyond the boundaries, but it doesn't matter because it's going to make you look good. Okay, it's going to make you look good to an audience. Other logical fallacies that people use. Like if I were to show you an entire list of logical fallacies right now, I can basically explain to you every single logical fallacy that Ben Shapiro uses. Okay, every single one. Appeal to authority, argument from majority, argument from consensus, bandwagon fallacy, appeal to common belief, democratic fallacy, mob appeal, appeal to nature. What are these? Here are the fallacies, the common logical fallacies. Post hoc, ergo propter hoc. Conclusion that assumes that if A occurred after B, then B must have caused A. Genetic fallacy. Conclusion is based on an argument that the origins of a person, idea, institute, or theory determines character, nature, or worth. For example, the Volkswagen Beetle is an evil car because it was originally designed by Hitler's army. Begging the claim. The conclusion that the writer should prove is validated within the claim. Example, filthy and polluting coal should be banned. You didn't say why it should be banned. You just said simply that it's filthy and polluting. Arguing that coal pollutes the earth and thus should be banned would be logical, but the very conclusion that should be proved that coal caused enough pollution to warrant banning its use is already assumed in the claim by referring it to as filthy and polluting. These are all things that we engage in. I use them all the fucking time. This is exactly what Ben uses. What is this, Mr. Beat? How to spot logical fallacies featuring Joe Rogan and Ben Shapiro. Anyway, what is this? Ben's greatest hits? Yeah. Israelis like the belt. Arabs like the bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue. Hashtag settlements rock. Good example because not all logical fallacies are necessarily wrong statements. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I never said they were. I'm simply stating that logical fallacies are a very effective way of defeating your opponent. They're like a cheat code, in my opinion, in a debate. And most people would look like a fucking buffoon if they sit there and go, that's an ad hominem. Because then you've deviated away from the argument. You've conceded ground. If someone engages you with an ad hominem attack and you go, excuse me, that's an ad hominem, only the other hyper debate perverts are going to look at that and go, that is actually an ad hominem. You're right, sir. You, my friend, have lost the argument. Most normal people are going to look at that and go, what the fuck's this nerd saying? You just got rocked, dude. You got your shit pushed. I always thought it looked pedantic because you're arguing about arguing at that point. Exactly. Which is why I always say the most effective debate lords are ones who just like weaponize all of these arguments all the fucking time. These like ways of engaging in logical fallacies all the fucking time. That's it. A red herring, a diversionary tactic that avoids key issues, often by avoiding opposing arguments rather than addressing them. Example, the level of mercury in seafood may be unsafe, but what will officials do to support their families? The author switched the discussion away from the safety of the food and talks instead about an economic issue. You've never talked to someone who doesn't use this. People use this all the fucking time. How would you deal with debate lords then? I mean, the only time, off topic, but Ben Shapiro spoke at an event in my undergrad, and one of the people asking him questions called him Ben Shabibo to his face. Want the clip? No, that's fine. But I think I remember the clip because I think he also sent it in here at the time. So the point is, a smart debate lord will always utilize, or rather weaponize, logical fallacies and then try to rationalize said logical fallacies. Okay? Moral equivalence, straw man, ad populum, bandwagon, appeal. This is an appeal that presents what people or a group of people think in order to persuade one to think the same way. Getting on the bandwagon is such an instance. One of Ben's favorite arguments, I mean, he uses all of these, right? But one of Ben's favorite arguments is also is, and a lot of debate lords is actually, it's not just Ben, but like is to basically I think is it ad absurdum? No, other than gish galloping, he loves gish galloping too, but it's like usually hitting you with an absolutely absurd argument. Here, I'll give you the example. You say you want to increase the minimum wage to $25 an hour. Why not $1,000 an hour? Why not $10,000 an hour? Now, this is an argument from absurdity, reductio ad absurdum. Okay, this is a logical fallacy. No one has made this argument. No one has made this claim. But Ben Shapiro turned around and basically added this argument to you, like claimed that you're doing it. It's a straw man. Like he's saying that this is your argument. And also on top of that, he's now reconstructed your argument to be one that is like ridiculous, a completely ridiculous argument. How do you deal with that? If you turn around and say, I did not say that, let's talk about the facts that I presented, then Ben can very easily try and justify, if he entertains this, he can very easily justify this by claiming, well, I'm just trying to understand your moral boundaries. Okay, I've heard many debate lords utilize this logical fallacy and then turn around and go, well, I'm just trying to understand your logical boundaries. No, you're not. You're not trying to set up a logical boundary. You're literally just simply moving the argument away to an entirely unproductive and ridiculous fucking a ridiculous place where like you come across in the right to the audience and I come across in the wrong. Like I just suggested something so fruitless. Raising the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $25 an hour might be perfectly rational within the bounds of reason. Raising the minimum wage from $15 an hour to $1,000 an hour will not be. This is precisely the reason why nobody made this argument. You made this argument for me, okay? And when you talk about these sorts of things, you've already lost because you wanted to just boom, 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 throw out your facts. Just present your argument. And now you've completely moved away from your argument. Now you are in the pocket, okay? Now you're in the pocket. You're in the area that Ben wants you to be in, away from the main argument that you made, that you actually have good standing on. You had your premises, you had your logical conclusion, but now it's gone. It's gone. We're talking about something entirely different. XQC calls this the rookie hole. Okay? Another way that debate lords engage in this is, yes, discredit your opposition and everything they will say will fall on deaf ears. Technically, it has nothing to do with anything. Like you're not on trial. You're not a fucking character witness. Let's say we're having a conversation about taxes. If someone fucking turns around and says, Hasan, you're a rich socialist, by the way. Well, okay, that doesn't change anything about the argument that I made. You just basically just said I'm a rich socialist. It's true. What does this have to do with the argument that I'm making? If someone who was a poor socialist, if they made the same argument, would you all of a sudden take that more seriously? Does that change the actual dynamics of the thing that I'm presenting? Okay? I'm doing an argument course in college and my professor uses this exact argument to show a logical fallacy. Exactly. You are only bringing this up because you want to discredit me, even though technically there is absolutely nothing that is like inconsistent with the way I exist from my own logical boundaries, right? But the moment that I start talking about my own logical boundaries and why actually it's perfectly permissible to be a rich socialist, I'm going against 100 years of Red Scare propaganda and a cartoonish depiction of what socialism is supposed to be. And if the broader majority only knows what socialism is supposed to be, then it might as well be the truth. And if I were to like defend myself against that, then I've lost the argument because I'm now talking about myself and not about what the original argument was, what my position is on a particular tax, let's say. Just because I hate debate perverts does not change the reality that I know how to be a debate pervert. Okay? It's also part of the reason why. Well, wouldn't this stuff only work on amateurs? Like, any decent debater knows this stuff and can counter argument and will always come down to the facts and how informative one is on the topic, and his side seems to be on the weaker side defending apartheid. So basically he should lose every argument about the conflict versus a decent debater. Yeah, no, that's why I said he would lose the conflict against a decent debater who actually has some of the facts, not even all of them. FYI, reductio ad absurdum isn't a fallacy. You're describing slippery slope more than anything. Okay, I'm sorry. I got my wait, what? No, I thought no. Is a logical argumentative technique where you refute a statement by showing where its logical conclusion leads to an absurdity. Oh, you're right. You're right. You're right. It is to disprove. What I'm describing was a slippery slope. A reductio ad absurdum definition is a logical argumentative technique where you refute a statement by showing its logical conclusion leads to an absurdity. By demonstrating that accepting a particular premise of an argument results in a ridiculous and untenable conclusion, you can argue against the validity of that argument. Infinite wealth fallacy. If everyone printed their own money, then everyone would be wealthy. However, this would render money useless. Endless free samples. If a store offered unlimited free samples of a product, then no one would ever buy the product. Yes. Whereas the argument that you're presenting in this situation is not about infinite wealth, nor is it about endless free samples. So technically, it's a straw man. It's a straw man combined with a slippery slope argument. So Chad is hilarious, calling Chatter a nerd. Chatter is a nerd. I mean, yeah, exactly. My point is, I disagree. People with facts on their side do not necessarily win debates because using debate perpetuity does not rely on any of the facts and relies on fallacies. No, that's what I said. You're repeating what I'm saying. You don't need to have the facts on your side. You do not need to have facts on your side to win an argument. I'm not going to lie, when I saw the title was Secret Sunday Stream, I wasn't expecting a debate pedophilia class. I mean, it's good. It's good to talk about it. I got my debate pervetry terminology wrong, and I apologize for it. It's still useful to prevent your case, though. Who cares about what people determine as the winner? I'm telling you that this format that Ben loves only works if he can just like bully his interlocutors and humiliate them. That's why it works, because he's going up against people who are not familiar with the matter, aren't super well read on the actual talking points, and can counter adequately. Okay? And therefore, a skilled interlocutor, a skilled rhetorician like Ben Shapiro will fucking clap all of these people because he has like endless amounts of talking points. And it's not like there's a moderator there who's going to be like, oh, I'm docking a point from you because you used like a faulty reasoning. Recently, I debated Hamas supporter at Cambridge University, seemingly endorsed the idea of eliminating the Jewish community. Do they even know from what the river to the sea means?
I'll start by quoting one of your videos. You say, I know it's, by the way, my question is on climate change.
Okay.
You say,
Thank you for.
Wait, what?
CO2
America's
emissions.
carbon emissions have been going like this, and China's carbon The world has obviously witnessed heinous attacks by
Israel can justifiably kill everyone who defies the actions of Israel.
Wait, what? We already watched this. He didn't even say from the river to the sea. Using Zionist engines, the Western people have been programmed to believe is the truth, but Arabs know they're liars, so we can destroy them. That's why he would never debate Muhammad Hijab. Oh, she says free Palestine at the end of her question.
Thanks. What kind of matters?
Not the
Money to.
I mean, the solution for them presumably would be in terms of mitigating against, that seems like climate change. Which part?
I don't know. I hate this. Can you continue the hijabical, please? I want to see her own Ben Shapiro. I doubt she owns him. There's no way she owns him. He's too skilled to just like get caught on the fucking back pedal. He's too skilled to get caught on the back end. On the back foot. He will always be able to deflect and like go back to an area that he feels more comfortable arguing in.
Where people were wrongfully shot at, including children, and you still can't answer about why that's justified.
So, if again,
I keep talking about Hamas and terror groups, and you give examples of other terror groups, even though I give you examples of civilians who marched and were shot at. But
now you also arrive at this secondary problem. Those who are personally invested in this are going to be understandably emotional. This argument does not favor those who get understandably emotional because they have a personal stake in the matter. Ben also has a personal stake in the matter, but Ben is coming at this from the position of the dominant force. So for him, he has a lot more leeway to get emotional. He has a lot more bandwidth. If you are arguing against the person who is dominating you, okay, and you have to make arguments for those who are being oppressed, who are experiencing a universal wrong, and you obviously feel for those people, and maybe even they can attack you personally and say you're a terrorist supporter, then, you know, he has all the power in this situation. He doesn't have to fucking freak out at all. It's going to take a lot for him to lose his shit.
Even now, a few days ago, you had Palestinian people living in Israel proper, which is occupied Palestine, who are being shot at by farmers in their gardens and in their farms. And those people are being able to get away with shooting them with total impunity. So why is it that
That's not true. Many of those people have been arrested. They're all currently sitting in Israeli
Wrong!
jail.
Wrong! Those people do not get arrested at all. There are two different legal standards here. Palestinians can do whatever the fuck, Israelis can do whatever the fuck they want in the West Bank. Israelis have the same rights and same liberties as Israelis living in Israel proper do. However, Palestinians do not. Palestinians right now living in occupied West Bank and in Gaza have, especially in the occupied West Bank, are dictated by military law, okay? They are treated like enemy combatants. They have certain boundaries, but they are dictated by military law. They're governed by military law in the same way that up until 1967, Palestinian citizens of Israel were governed by military law inside of Israel proper. Once Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza, then they at least gave some rights to the Palestinian citizens of Israel. Anyway, that's not true. You do not go to jail if you kill settlers. Kill settlers. If you're a settler, you do not go to jail if you kill Palestinians. Charges are pressed in only 4% of settler violence cases. I'll give you another example. Charges are not pressed even if you kill an American citizen. In most of the famous cases, whether it be 2003 Rachel Corrie in Gaza, where the bulldozer fucking literally killed her deliberately, okay? The person who was driving the bulldozer did not get charged with a crime. He was found not guilty. The IDF soldier that assassinated Shireen Abu Akleh near the Jenin refugee camp, that did so violating international laws, an actual war crime, like someone who's a press person getting fucking shot and killed by a occupying military force, is completely and utterly just immoral, and also on top of that, unjustifiable. He was not punished either. First, they lied and said that it wasn't actually an IDF soldier. It was actually a member of the Palestinian forces there, like the Jenin Refugee Brigade. So Ben is absolutely wrong. He's lying. He's not wrong. He's just lying. So he just responded with a lie when he said
that just shot at a Palestinian
have been arrested.
Was not arrested. I encourage you to look into this.
I did look into this morning. And can I please get one answer before you?
He's wrong. He's just fucking lying. He's absolutely lying. There are incredibly rare instances where anyone even gets pressed charges, okay, in settler violence cases. How can you say this? How can you even say this when a dude who recently got a position in the Israeli, a guy who literally threw a Molotov cocktail at a settlement, is now sitting in a position of power in the Israeli government? I forget the name of the guy is. Hold on, I'm going to pull it up right now. I'm going to try to figure it out. What's the guy with the Molotov cocktail guy? Like, he's literally an arsonist in the West Bank.
One eternity later.
Oh, this guy. Yes. Thank you. This guy. Ultranationalist Zvi Sukkot, appointed head of Knesset West Bank subcommittee. Opposition lawmakers warn settlement activists will inflame tensions in the West Bank amid a wave of settler violence against Palestinians. Ultranationalist MK and radical settlement activist Zvi Sukkot was appointed Wednesday to serve as the chairman of the Knesset subcommittee for Judea and Samaria, which is, by the way, another gross distinction. It's the West Bank, under the permanent Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committees. The appointment was condemned by numerous opposition MKs, members of the Knesset, as well as anti-settlement groups who pointed out that Sukkot has a long history of radicalism in the settlement movement and settler violence in the West Bank has spiked dramatically since October 7th. On the night of October 5th, Sukkot and a group of extremist settlers set up a sukkah, a temporary dwelling used during the Jewish holiday of Sukkot in the Palestinian town of Hawara after a Palestinian terrorist shot at Israelis driving through the town. Settlers and local Palestinians clashed that evening. One Palestinian was killed in subsequent confrontations, although it was unclear whether he was killed by IDF soldiers or an armed settler. Dozens of Palestinians were injured as a result of the confrontation. He was rumored to have engaged in a mosque arson, right? He was also arrested in 2010 by the police due to Shin Bet's suspicions that he was involved in the arson of a mosque in the northern West Bank, close to where he lived in the Yitzhar settlement. He was not charged over the incident, however. Sukkot was not drafted into the IDF after he said in his interview with the recruitment office that he had no trust in the military due to its participation in the evacuation of settlers from Gaza and northern West Bank settlements during the 2005 disengagement plan. He is literally unsuitable for military service for being too racist. That guy is in charge of the settlements, dude. Lo and behold, who got arrested 10 people got arrested on suspicion. The other 6 included Zvi Sukkot of Yitzhar, Eliran El Gali of Yitzhar, and Shlomo Gilbert of Ilan Moreh, all 20 years old, were still being questioned. He denied claims are a Yitzhar resident. In December attack, graffiti was sprayed in Hebrew on the mosque wall that said, "Get ready to pay the price. We'll burn you all." Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu ordered a 10-month lull in the permits for new settlement homes in the West Bank, not including East Jerusalem. The order followed U.S. and Palestinian calls for a total freeze in settlement building. Palestinian officials have refused to rejoin peace talks until a total freeze is imposed. All Jewish settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are illegal under international law, though Israel disputes this. So the point is that at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or free with Twitch Prime. Okay? But the other point is, if you are to claim that those who engage in acts of violence against Palestinians are always punished, you are a liar. Not only do the perpetrators rarely ever get punished, but also on top of that, those who actually resist do get punished. They get killed by the Israeli occupying force. Okay? I'm losing my fucking mind that he's just openly lying about this.
Really, because this is an interesting conversation. Which part of Israel is occupied Palestine?
All of Israel?
There we go. There we go. There we go. So what you're calling
Oh, there we go. Yeah, dude.
for is the obliteration of the state of Israel, and all of this is just
There we go. I got you. You've fallen into my trap. You are a Jew hater. I got you. Haha. I already knew this because you were wearing a hijab. Everyone knows it is the garb of one who hates the Jews. I have destroyed you now. If he knows he lie, what does he get from it? What do you mean? Fucking the satisfaction of just like straight up destroying an Arab Muslim woman is all he wants. This is what keeps him going.
to cover for that. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, he just fucking hand waved her away and was like, all right, you're done. You're a Jew hater. Boom. Fucking owned, dude. Got it. She literally, dude. She said there are no legal repercussions for settlers who fucking kill Palestinians in occupied West Bank. Ben said, yes, there are. Lied. Okay. Just an abject lie. Literally, people in Israel will tell you that that is wrong. Okay. Because Ben isn't just a right-winger. He is like to the right of the Israeli government too. And then he turned around. What part of Israel is occupied? She said all of Israel. And he goes, okay, you want all Jews to die. Bye-bye. Moving on. Ridiculous.
In a 5-star hotel in Qatar, while his people are millions of passionate to call for the over...
Say thank you for coming to speak with us that you did this evening. It's a real pleasure. I'm a theology student myself, and I was wondering, how do you reconcile your conservative political views?
Say into the microphone.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile your conservative political views with the religious values of compassion and your own Jewish faith? And your stance on the Israeli-Palestine war?
I don't see why it's uncompassionate to call for the overthrow of Hamas, a terrorist group in the Gaza Strip, which has been oppressing its people and stealing billions of dollars.
Dude, it's like literally just a fucking brrr. I think it's compassionate to kill every... Like, no one said that, okay? No one is saying that. You're saying that. It's not compassionate to... First of all, I am not the best at like Judaism or theology. Okay, I'm not by any means an expert, but according to the Neturei Karta, at the very least, and many Orthodox Jews originally before the Zionist movement became so broadly popular and accepted, plenty of religious Jews said, the fuck do you mean? We're not supposed to have a nation state. That is actually antithetical to what the Torah says. We have to wait for the Messiah. It's one interpretation that still holds, at least in the minds of the Neturei Karta and some of the other Orthodox Jewish communities that are anti-Zionist. So obviously, if you want a religious interpretation, like there are definitely plenty of religious justifications to why Israel is not allowed. Theodor Herzl himself, yes, you are correct, was a secular Jew. He just simply used Judaism as a mythos to try and make Zionism more popular. Has this guy ever debated non-college students? I don't know if he's ever debated a non-college student in this situation.
Dollars from its own people. Ismail Haniyeh is living in a 5-star hotel in Qatar while his people are living in absolute misery.
That's crazy, man. Then deal with that guy. You know, that's great. Okay, that's great. That seems like a political problem, right? It seems like a political problem that should be dealt with politically, not by fucking, like, this is a great argument. He's like, Ismail Haniyeh is living in a 5-star hotel in Qatar. Okay, so killing 10,000 Palestinians is not doing shit to that, is it? So why do you have to kill 10,000 Palestinians? Ben Shabibo debated a world-famous pro-Palestinian activist recently. Okay, dude. Okay.
Operation with the military objective.
They did not debate, brother. This was not a debate. This was a suckfest.
Because of a war that he initiated by killing 1,500 people inside Israel proper and then taking 233 hostages. I don't see why that's non-compassionate. It seems to me that compassion also requires that you obliterate terrorist threats to your own population.
Obliterate! Yeah. Hypothetically, let's say I'm compassionately obliterating my enemies, making their babies bleed, making their babies scream. Compassionately, of course.
Okay. Okay, Samantha, you turn ahead.
Can you all hear me? All right, what about now?
Bro, this is crazy.
To see you. I've been watching you since 2015. You started my conservative journey, and
they also never mentioned that he's actually in Qatar because the U.S. asked Doha to host Hamas. If people don't understand how far to the right Ben is on this issue, he literally called out Tucker Carlson for not being genocidal enough. Well, Tucker Carlson is a little bit anti-Semitic. Not even a little bit. Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic. So I think he says like anti-Israel shit from time to time so that he can get like pot shots off at Jews. I don't even know why I said a little anti-Semitic. I mean, he is anti-Semitic. I don't think Tucker Carlson is pro-Palestine because that would require him to side. Like, that would require him to side with Arabs, who he fucking hates more than he hates Jews, I think. For a lot of white nationalists, they have these two conflicting thoughts inside of them right now in this moment. Do they rise to the occasion and utilize the anti-Israel sentiment to sneak in anti-Semitic rhetoric? Or do they let Israel continue its ethnic cleansing campaign because they fucking hate Muslims? Basically, depending on what kind of white nationalist you are, inside of you, there are two wolves, exactly, chatter. The anti-Semitic wolf and the Islamophobic wolf, right? So now these are competing. And depending on how much you believe the anti-Semitic conspiracies yourself personally, hinges on how hard you'll go against Israel if you're a white nationalist. Like, I think that a lot of the anti-Israel anti-Semites are straight up firm believers that like Jews do literally control the media and stuff. So they think like they have to believe it. They must believe it. And that's why they have to hate Jewish people more than they hate Muslims. And that's why they go out of their way. Go back to your own country. You have no idea what you're talking about. Ben Shapiro knows more about the situation. The only thing you know about is how to deliver the top of the hour every hour. I already ran it, chatter. The average white nationalist definitely hates Muslims more than Jews. Yes. A lot of white nationalists are Zionists as well. Remember, a lot of white nationalists, anti-Semites are Zionists themselves because they think that, like, you know, for theological Armageddon reasons, right? As I've talked about time and time again.
I saw, unfortunately, you had to bring some pretty gruesome photos, and I have to say I hope those photos aren't real, and I have my doubts because recently you posted an AI-generated image of a...
This is 100% a Groyper. He said he's been a Ben Shapiro fan who started him off in his conservatism journey in 2015. This kid is a Nazi. Dude, 100%. He won Hundo P, used to watch Ben Shapiro in 2015, and he went on a fucking journey and became a Nazi.
A charred infant corpse.
Yeah, let's see how fast before he mentions USS Liberty. Let's see.
No, I didn't. That is a lie. That is untrue. It was not an AI photo. It was not an AI photo.
That dude for sure in here calling you Hamas Piker right now. Yeah. He's on forums online being like, Hasan is literally Hamas. He's a Hamas supporter.
It was distributed by the Israeli government and the Prime Minister of Israel. It was verified by the United States government. That fake community note that said that it was an AI-generated photo was in fact taken down by Twitter because it was a fake community note. That is unfortunately not an AI-generated photo. I wish it were. It was a baby.
He's citing the Hinkle. Yeah, the kid got hinkled.
Obliterated beyond recognition because it had been burned to death.
So is it the word of the IDF in Israel versus the word of...
No, actually, it's the photo, it's the actual camera footage taken by GoPro cameras by Hamas terrorists as they invaded Israel proper. I don't have to take Israel's word for it. A lot of this stuff was live streamed.
You should ask him, was the baby burning live stream? Because it wasn't. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I do believe that babies were ruthlessly murdered. Okay, I do.
So... To what extent, as you're posting to social media...
Why am I giving the fucking Groyper talking points?
Are you willing to make sure the information you're posting is accurate, to not exchange truth for giving aid to Israel?
God, this is such a bad argument. Ugh. This dude 100% thought this was going to go way differently in his head. Yeah.
I'm certainly doing my damn best. I mean, there's a lot of information flowing around. I'm doing my...
Why don't you care about Graham Norton? The fuck? What? Graham Norton? Who's Graham Norton?
On that one, for sure, 100%. It is a lie that is an AI-generated photo.
I think he's literally being kitty glove with this guy because he diffused him by... He literally fucking hit him with the I'm your fan since 2015. So he's like not going fucking atomic nuclear bomb on him.
That is not true.
Why he debating children? That's what he does all the time.
In any way, shape, or form. And it shows how it does show how we live in a very dangerous era where anybody can, I mean, this is how.
What is this Israel proper talk? It's one that I use to make this designation of like areas that is not the Gaza, areas that's not the Gaza Strip, and areas that are not the West Bank where Palestinians live broadly. That's what I consider Israel proper. A lot of people can use it because it's important to make this designation.
Happening on a routine basis. You're seeing, for example, some of the pictures. They're horrible pictures coming out from Gaza, and a huge number of those are, of course, absolutely real. You're also seeing people who are repurposing pictures that are taken from Syria and then saying those are happening in Gaza. So, yeah, unfortunately, there is a lot of information that's floating around that is hard to kind of lock down and verify. That picture is 100% real, unfortunately.
I sympathize with you because as AI gets more advanced, it becomes increasingly hard to discern information. So I know you bear a lot of
and I mean, this is going to be a serious problem as time goes on. Seriously, like the flow of information is going to be.
Dude, notice how this kid literally hit him with the, why did you post a fake photo? And Ben is like so receptive to him still because all he had to say was, I'm a fan of yours since 2015. And also he's not wearing a hijab. So there's that too. Like Ben was infinitely more ruthless to the student who was wearing a hijab than he is to this fucking kid because he said he's a dick rider.
More and more uncertain because of that. That I agree with on a general level.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Damn, he got fucking pushed and...
Awesome.
Hi. If Israel is justified in killing civilians because of the acts of terror committed by Hamas, why isn't Hamas justified in doing what it did? Because Israel is keeping 13,000 children. It has tried them in military courts. Since
true.
the establishment of Israel, 55,000 Palestinian homes have been bulldozed. So why isn't Hamas justified in doing what it did if we use your logic?
So, are you ready? I know what he's going to do. Cracks knuckles, goes, it's genocide time. Pushes glasses to the brow ridge, cracks knuckles, goes, it's genocide time. Okay? The real answer is because they're Arab and therefore they're terrorists and therefore they're not real human beings by my assessment. But that's the real motivating reason as to why Ben feels that way. However, what he's going to say now is Israel's the most moral army on the planet, and when Israel attacks Gaza, it's actually not attacking Gaza, it's attacking Hamas targets. Hamas is the one who's doing war crimes by hiding behind civilian population when they're sending rockets in the direction of Israel. Okay? Therefore, what Israel is doing could never be equivalent to what Hamas has done. Hamas is killing people indiscriminately. Hamas is a gang of violent thugs, and they're barbaric, and they went into Israel because they wanted to do rapes and behead babies. Whereas when IDF beheads babies, they do it in a cool way, with a rocket, with a Mark 84 bomb, with guided munitions. That's way sicker and totally justified, and moral also.
Well, so I'm going to answer your question, then I'm going to ask you a question if you don't mind. Is that all right? So so my answer is that Israel would not be justified in killing Palestinian civilians because of the actions of terrorists. Israel would be justified in attempting to kill terrorists, and civilian casualties are a cost of war.
Okay, so are Israeli civilian casualties not a cost of war in a violent emancipatory action then? Because here's the thing. While I personally think it's ridiculous to literally look at a militant faction under occupation and its actions and then compare them to a militant state that is engaging in the occupation, that is an apartheid state, that is a fucking nuke, we can't even get Hamas and Israel to sit on the same moral standards. I don't know why, like, the same fucking standards cannot exist for these two, let's say, militant entities. It blows my mind. It blows my fucking mind. Because if they exist on the same moral playing field, then because he has to justify what IDF is doing, then automatically he has to say, okay, well, those are civilian casualties in the acts that Hamas engaged in. Because people always fucking use, like, Hamas's dog shit fucking missiles, okay? Like, oh, Hamas is sending, thousands of missiles into Israel. It's like, okay, dog, give them guided munitions then, so they can only fucking hit military targets. Like, what are we talking about here? You think they want to kill random civilians and not military targets? What are you, fucking crazy? Give them a fucking JDAM Mark 84 rocket, let it fly and see where they hit. If they use those rockets to hit civilian targets, then we can have a conversation about how maybe they're not the most moral army, but even then, they would still be on the IDF playing field. They would get to the IDF playing field if you gave them guided munitions. Of course, Hamas wants to hit civilian targets, question mark. The fuck do you mean? What do you mean? We don't even know. You don't know that, and neither do I. You want to know why? Because they don't have guided munitions. What? They don't. And even if they did, okay, even if they weren't lobbing like fucking backyard bootleg bathtub missiles into Israel, even if they didn't have that, and they did actually have guided munitions and they fucking hit civilian targets, then they would literally reach Israel's level of immorality. Because just like Israel, since October 7th, Hamas militants did deliberately kill and target civilians. So does fucking Israel. So even if do you understand what I'm trying to say? They're both war crimes, except one is a war crime committed by a militia that is not a standing army with fucking rules of engagement, okay, against an occupying state. You're full of hate. I feel bad for your mom. I'm not full of hate at all. Wait, why do you feel bad for my mom? My mother loves me. Thank you very much. Your mother loves me too, as a matter of fact. Like, guys. Understand what I'm trying to say, okay? Please. This is very important. This is very important to try to understand what I'm trying to say here. Targeting civilians is a war crime. Unjustifiable. I agree. Which is why I condemn Hamas, okay? We're in agreement there. But the other side does not condemn the IDF because they do not hold the IDF to the same standards that they hold a fucking militant group that is violently retaliating to an apartheid state. Do you understand? It's fucking ridiculous. It is so ridiculous. One is a militarized state that is an occupying force on 5 million civilians, okay? 5 million Palestinians, both in Gaza and also in the West Bank. The idea that, like, we are holding a militant group comprised of, like, orphaned 18, 19, 20-year-olds that behaved like a roving gang once they accomplished a military objective far beyond their scope of imagination and engaged in brutal, barbaric acts. And they certainly did. The idea that we hold them to a higher standard than the motherfucking Israeli state is mind-boggling. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. What are we doing? Really? Like, those guys are supposed to be the most moral army, but Israel, on the other hand, who we claim is the most moral army, accidentally keeps killing fucking civilians, even though Hamas doesn't have a fucking registry of every single Israeli living in Israel proper. Israel does. They have the registry, the population registry of every single Palestinian living in Gaza. That's why they fucking call them up before blowing up their houses. That's why when they blow up a journalist's house, it's extra fucked up. Because you know that shit's not an accident. You know that shit is by design. You know that's fucking targeted. They know where every fucking Palestinian lives in the Gaza Strip. And they blow their shit up on purpose. They have guided munitions and they blow civilians up on purpose. They have superior firepower and they kill civilians on purpose. 3,000 plus children have been ruthlessly slaughtered. God, you are so bad faith. It sucks that you at least have some semblance of morality inside of you that is eating away at your core, that when faced with facts, you go, you must be bad faith. Because if I listen to what you have to say and you know, look at it with an ounce of charitability, that goes against everything that I've believed my entire life, and it makes me feel bad. Okay? That's it. That's the point. So is operating out of civilian infrastructure is a moot point. The IDF operates out of civilian infrastructure as well. All fucking Israeli citizens are technically military. Like 50% of women in Israel served in the military. Okay? By international standards, there's mandatory service. So they're enemy combatants? Really? They're more enemy combatants than fucking every random Palestinian in Gaza. There's mandatory service. Go ahead. Go ahead. Explain it to me. There's mandatory service in Israel. You can make a legal argument that the assumption that most Israeli adults are enemy combatants because of their mandatory military service, that they could be called into fucking active duty any given moment, technically declares a certain group, an entire group of people in a certain age range to be enemy combatants. My question to you is, unironically, to simply hold a nuclear state, like a state with a nuke, to the same standards that you would hold a violent militant group. Okay? Just that. And those who defend Israel can't even do that. That's why this conversation is fucking ridiculous. What would you reply to this? Genocide is defined in 1091 and includes violent acts with a specific intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. There is federal jurisdiction if the offense is committed within the United States. There's also federal extraterritorial jurisdiction. Wait, what do you mean? Yeah, Israel fits this standard. Yeah, by the way, this dude has no response to what I just said. Article 2. In the present convention, genocide means any of the following acts: killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Israel shutting off water, food, and energy into Gaza falls under this standard completely. I agree with you on standards, but I don't think it's accurate to say that Hamas didn't plan to kill civilians, take hostages if it had the chance, even if I agree that Hamas did not expect this operation to be so successful. Dude. Of course, there were people that were fucking literally spraying bus stops and shit. I'm not saying that they did not in any way, shape, or form. None of the fucking militants in any way, shape, or form didn't want to kill whoever the fuck they could kill. What do you mean? I'm asking the IDF to hold itself to the same standards that we are holding Hamas to. Yes, I agree with you on that. And you can absolutely make an argument as to why one side's standards should be lowered, and that side is not fucking Israel, okay? Like, the idea that those who are fighting against, and not in an honorable way, okay? In a dishonorable way, but still fighting against an unjust military occupation and apartheid state are held to the same standards of those who are engaging in the maintenance of said apartheid state is one that has never historically happened. Once the actual, once all is said and done and there's an international tribunal, they will not be held to the same standard. I'm just letting you guys know. My point was the argument to give Hamas precision weapons isn't an effective one. No, that is, obviously we're not giving Hamas precision weapons, my friend. I'm simply stating that we don't even know what they would do if they had precision weapons, because they do not have precision weapons. And the reason why their indiscriminate bombing campaign into Israel proper, which, by the way, 90% of which is intercepted regardless by the Iron Dome, is indiscriminate because they're fucking they're goddamn bathtub rockets and not fucking precision-guided munitions. If they had precision-guided munitions, and then they still were like targeting schools and still targeting hospitals and still targeting ambulances inside of Israel, okay? If they were doing all of that with their Air Force and their artillery and actually ending up killing people inside of Israel, they would now officially have at least reached the level that Israel is at. And even then, there's still more room to go because Israel also has their fucking entire population records. You understand? Is that for me? Wow, Davide brought another gift, huh? This man. Thank you.
From Davide.
Thank you. I love these. Anyway, so these are things to consider in this argument. If Hamas was the government of a true nation state in the same way that Israel is recognized as, was Israel called the attack a terrorist attack or an act of war? Also, what is the IDF defense when they keep launching rockets at civilians in Lebanon? They're asking for it, and they're Arab, and Hezbollah. That's the argument. Anyway, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction or in whole or in part. Israel definitely fits the legal definition. Hamas supports genocide but doesn't have the capacity. Israel has the capacity but not the intention is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This is just cope. Why not call for the abolition of the terrorist state of Israel? Palestinians and Israelis can live in a single state of Palestine. Wait, what? What are you saying? I've literally talked about having a single state. What the fuck do you think that is? Yes, Israel cannot be an apartheid state. Israel cannot be a Jewish ethno-state. Can't turn around and go, well, all these other Arab countries have their own ethno-state. Why can't the Jews? Like, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You can be a secular state with more Jewish people living in it as long as you allow a right to return to the Palestinians. But it's fucked up. It's fucking ridiculous. I hecking love arguing semantics of genocide and ethnic cleansing while people are being killed at a crazy rate. Yeah. How is Israel supposed to eliminate Hamas if their leader is in Qatar? This is another proof that the war is not about Hamas, but the fact that they're threatening to destroy a whole of Lebanon shows its barbaric nature. Yes. All right, let's get back to this.
That is just a reality of life. During World War II, there were 70,000 Brits who died during the Blitz bombing, and there were 2 million Germans who died, civilians who died during World War II. And I don't see a lot of monuments in Britain because of the 2 million civilians who died in Germany. The costs of war are brutal. They're terrible.
I like that what we did was so fucking ruthless. It is probably the most like indefensible part of World War II. One that like Howard Zinn and Kurt Vonnegut, who have personally talked about, and how it was like a radicalizing moment for both of them in different directions. And that we also set the standards after World War II because it was so fucked up. And he literally is still like, he's still like totally acceptable moments of carnage in World War II, okay? I love World War II. I watch a fuck ton of World War II documentaries. It's my favorite, okay? It's great. It's like fuels me. It fuels me with passion. It makes me happy to see Nazis get fucking destroyed, okay? Straight up. It was brutal. It was ruthless. The barbarity is obvious, okay? But it was a just cause. To compare attacking the Nazi machine that was a militarized state with bombing your concentration camp because there's 35,000 militants amongst the densely populated civilians is a psychotic argument. And it's just ridiculous. Completely ridiculous.
They're horrifying. There's a vast difference in moral scope between deliberately going into a civilian area and murdering everyone you can find and trying to kill a terrorist who is deliberately hiding beneath a civilian area, hiding their rockets in civilian areas, starving their own people. There is a vast difference. Okay, so now I get to ask my question, if you don't mind. So my question is, do you believe that there is...
No, there is no... Wait, what? Vast difference? Like, he's just saying, like, Hamas is indiscriminately killing civilians, whereas Israel is discriminately killing civilians. Okay, one's a militant group resisting an apartheid regime in a barbaric way, certainly. The other one is the apartheid regime, but they're discriminately killing civilians. How do you fucking leave this... How do you leave this conversation thinking like, oh yeah, no, the nuclear state is actually in the right? Unless there's a super secret third premise that's hidden. And that third secret premise that no one is really discussing is just kind of out there in the ether. Okay, it's just kind of flying around. And that third secret premise is that Arabs are not real humans. Like the Palestinians are not humans in this equation, whereas the Israelis are. That's it. That secret, racism. It's always racism.
There is a moral difference between Hamas going into, for example, Kfar Aza and murdering entire families, and Israel attempting to target terrorists and accidentally hitting civilians.
Israel is effectively doing the same because Gaza is the most densely populated region in the world. There are 15,000 people per square mile.
So does Hamas get
Over
immunity
half
because
of the
they're there? So
population's
Hamas gets
children.
immunity. So
Israel has killed 3,500 children in the past 3 weeks. That's more children. That's more children than have died in conflicts around the world in each of the last 4 years.
So just to be clear, your logic is that if you're a terrorist group located in a densely populated community and you hide behind civilians, you're now immune.
Where are the children meant to go?
So you're immune. Okay. That's
Where
a
are they
violation
meant
of
to
the
go?
Geneva Conventions, but okay. You're now immune. Your logic is
What do
that...
you mean you're immune? No. Asking for the same standard doesn't mean that you're immune. What the fuck? He literally is just saying, I have to shoot through these babies. Like, I have to shoot through these babies. You can't say that's a violation of the Geneva Conventions when you're talking about fucking Hamas, while simultaneously, when you're called into question about defending the acts of the IDF, you go, fuck the Geneva Conventions. You can't do that. I've heard him literally say, the Geneva Conventions.
You're a Hamas terrorist.
Sorry, since 2005, 23 out of every 24 conflict deaths have been Palestinian. I don't see any moral equivalency there. It's clearly unjust what the IDF has been doing to the Palestinians because there's a vast disparity between the number of Palestinians being killed and the number of Israelis.
I mean, I would
The
certainly hope that
disparity is
Israel is
huge.
killing more Hamas
This isn't
members.
a conflict.
Wait, I would certainly hope that Israel's killing more Hamas. Dude, look how fast and loose he plays with Palestinian and Hamas. No, Ben, that's racism. And you did it. Except because a lot of people are racist, they don't recognize it. They go, yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, there it is. That's the distinction. I would certainly hope that Israel's killing more Hamas. No, she said Israel's killing more Palestinians. You said they're Hamas. You're also personally admitting that you can't kill Hamas without killing civilians and that is an acceptable casualty. It's not. And the reason why you can't kill Hamas without killing civilians, unlike in prior sieges where at the very least, like civilian casualties are not as excessive, like if we're talking about Raqqa or if we're talking about Fallujah, where even then there's like a tremendous number of civilian casualties, but still nowhere near as bad as Gaza, is because America doesn't maintain or did not maintain Fallujah as its own concentration camp that they wouldn't allow civilians to leave. That's the fucking difference. Do you get it? Well, he doesn't. Do you understand? He didn't misspoke. He's just saying every Palestinian killed is Hamas. Yeah.
This isn't a conflict. This is one-sided ethnic cleansing.
Yeah, why hasn't the IDF posted their W's if they're wiping out Hamas? I haven't heard a single name drop after 4 weeks. There's like a couple militants, like low-level militants that they fucking clapped. But it's weird. I would go so far as say they've killed more militants, as far as I understand it, in fucking Lebanon, 120 plus so far in Lebanon. More Hezbollah people have been killed by Israel than fucking high-level Hamas officials. They've killed more journalists than they've killed like high-level Hamas militants, it seems. Like, what the fuck's going on? They have killed more hostages than they've killed Hamas officials, for sure.
Again, I'm just asking you, if based on the numbers, more Germans died than Brits in World War II, did that mean that the British were wrong in World War II? Because they did. Many more Germans died than Brits. Based on the numbers, does that mean that Britain was wrong?
Yeah. Here's the problem. Here's the issue. Germans killed way more people than the British did in general, okay? And that's the reason why it was permissible, at least at the time, to engage in these mass bombing campaigns. No, we're not talking about India. We're talking specifically from the lens of this conflict. Okay? The reason why you can't, yeah, we're specifically talking about World War II. The reason why you can't make this equivalence is because the militarized state, the machine of death and destruction in this circumstance, is not the fucking militant group. It's the nuclear state. So a comparison here quite literally does not favor your argument. It favors the argument that Israel is closely resembling the actions of Nazi Germany in this argument. Okay? You can't October 7 your way out of this. Because while October 7 is a particularly brutal, if not the most brutal retaliation, when you calculate the 75 years of occupation and war, but specifically the 56 years of occupation, direct occupation, okay, the death toll and the way that those murders have been committed does not favor your argument at all. That's it.
In World War II.
Britain wasn't bombing civilians.
That's not true. They were.
There's a clear difference.
You should talk to the people in Dresden, but you can't because they're dead.
There's a clear difference.
The argument here should be, did Britain have the population registry of every single person living in Dresden and deliberately fucking bomb them with guided munitions? Oh, wait, no, they didn't, because 1, it was not occupied British territory. 2, they did not have the population registry of Dresden. And 3, they did not have guided munitions. Okay? And 4, they were fighting against a militarized death machine. The militarized death machine in this circumstance is Israel, not Hamas. Also, Bomber Harris, chief of the RAF's bombing campaign, was disgraced for what was retroactively identified as war crimes, so Ben's argument has no foundation from the get-go. Dresden, 10,000% was military targets. Lamau, man. No, there's definitely the civilian casualties in Germany was tremendous. It is probably the most contentious part of World War II. Why do you argue with the most contentious part of World War II? Unless you want to make an argument, you have no leg to stand on, so you try to invoke some semblance of morality from the one fucking time that you think it's like totally valid to do something that is incredibly violent. Same with the firebombing of Tokyo, and the firebombing of Japan, and also nuking Japan. Okay, there is no morality in bombing civilians. That's crazy. It's so crazy. We literally fucking made rules of engagement for it after the fact. I don't know why people say this.
Difference. Well, I agree that war is horrible, but this is not a just war. What Israel is doing is not a just war. There is a difference between fighting the Nazis.
So it is not a just war.
Fighting the Nazis.
It is not a just war when you fight a war against people who murder 1,500 of your civilians and take 233.
Yeah, I'll say it. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not. 100%. It's not. Yeah, when you're the militarized state, when you're an apartheid state, Okay? When you're an apartheid state that is occupying this territory, yeah, no, it's not just at all. What the fuck do you mean? You're literally you've killed 10,000 civilians. Like, what? That's insane. And the argument is Israel should let Hamas do whatever they want. No, the argument is that you cannot deal with Hamas through violent means. This is a reality that every single person fucking understands. Okay? The only people that refuse to reckon with this reality are those who cynically want to hide their ethnic cleansing campaign and their permanent annexation of parts of Gaza. Please. You can't deal with Hamas through nonviolent means, though. Please read a singular book on the matter to come to the conclusion that Hamas is an invention of, and I don't mean like the classic Israel paid for Hamas to be more powerful or whatever. Hamas is completely the fault of Israel, not because it was originally funded by Mossad or anything like that, okay? It is completely the fault of Israel because of its increasingly violent means of maintaining an apartheid state, okay? What terrorist group was stopped with nonviolence? ANC, IRA. Every terrorist group that has fought against colonial occupation has been stopped with nonviolence. There has never been an instance where a terror group has been stopped permanently through violence. You are wrong. You have always been wrong, and you are wrong on this one too. ANC in South Africa, IRA in Ireland, militant groups in Algeria. The only time Viet Cong, FLN in Algeria, Viet Cong in Vietnam. Al-Qaeda was stopped with violence. ANC is a good example, though. You're wrong. Al-Qaeda was not stopped with violence. Al-Qaeda still operates. We arm Al-Qaeda right now. We have been arming Al-Qaeda because Al-Qaeda is a Saudi invention. And we literally currently arm Al-Qaeda in Yemen. Or, well, I guess that's been scaled back. Viet Cong, ANC, and the IRA were not stopped. They won. The fuck? Okay. Great example. There you go. They won. Exactly. How did they win? Because the occupying force retreated. The occupying force retreated. The ANC, again, Hamas winning is genocide, methinks. No, you think's wrong. The Taliban won as well. So how did that work? They were not stopped in any way. You're admitting that I'm right. And also, Hamas winning is genocide, methinks, is a silly argument because you know what's genocide? What Israel is doing right now. Ultimately, militancy is no longer a necessity in post-colonial movements once the colonial apparatus is dismantled, historically speaking, okay? Hamas is something you have to deal with politically, not through violent means. And you don't need to go that far to understand this. You want to know why? One, because their leadership is not even in fucking Gaza. So that's number one. And two, more importantly, perhaps, look to every single other siege that Israel is engaged in. Okay? You can tell this person is a burden to have a conversation with to everyone in their life. Yeah, he said, methinks. If you check the citation, Ben includes 500 soldiers and the number of 1,500 civilians, the opposite of a civilian, for fuck's sake. It doesn't matter. Okay, 500 soldiers and then what? 1,000 civilians. It's still not appropriate. The white genocide in South Africa after the ANC victory was wild, right? Oh, wait, that never happened. I mean, oh, God, don't bring in the fucking white nationalists in here. They're going to start fucking crying about white genocide. Are you going to go over this, brother? I would like to know your thoughts. What? As the only Jewish member of Michigan's congressional delegation, I have reached out to work Arab and Muslim constituents who I know are feeling fear and anguish right now, and I've tried to reflect that empathy on my approach to this crisis. I asked the same of Representative Rashida. The phrase from the river to the sea is one of division and violence. It is counterproductive. Yeah, dude, I don't care. I'm sorry. This is completely fucking ridiculous, dude. Sorry. You said free Palestine, and that scares me because I misunderstand it, and I think that it means like I've come up with a new. I know you're Palestinian, okay, but I don't trust your argument for what you are saying is how you get emancipation. I think it's a different secret thing that I decided. So all of a sudden, you have to abide by my understanding of your own emancipatory slogan. The fuck do you mean? It's a dog whistle? Yeah, if you're a racist piece of shit, yeah, it is a dog whistle. Anything is a dog whistle. Hamas says free Palestine. That actually, methinks, is also genocidal. Sorry, methinks that's genocidal. So you have to abide by my standards. Like, get the fuck out of here. Can you devil's advocate this argument? What do you mean? You want me to steal man from the river to the sea being genocidal? Is that what you want? I mean, I can do that. It's a dog whistle the way BLM was a dog whistle to racists. Yes, the problem is, in this circumstance, like, claiming that, like, all Jewish people are afraid of from the river to the sea is already a misnomer. It's not true. Jewish people say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It's a dog whistle in the same way that dumb diabetic Amerifats think Allahu Akbar is a dog whistle. Suck my dick. Okay? Oh, I'm sorry, dude. Oh, shit. Do a bunch of fucking stupid racist Amerifats think Allahu Akbar or Inshallah is a dog whistle to say death to America? Well, I guess you can't say that anymore then. Like, what are we doing? Why is the standard being set by those who are trying to defend the apartheid state? Like, what the fuck? Wow, dude, that's crazy. I've seen 1,000 messages from people who are like, actually, Sweaty, why do leftists love getting in their own way? Why do leftists love coming up with dumbass slogans and, like, defending these dumbass slogans? I'm like, oh, man, shit. I should go back to 1969 and tell the fucking PLFP that maybe stupid American liberals will someday misconstrue your very clearly defined ideological goals in dismantling the Zionist entity so that there could be a secular democratic republic for equal rights and representation for all Palestinians and all Jews living in Israel. Sorry, some fucking dipshit with a Medium article is gonna thinks this is genocidal, actually. Like, what the fuck are you saying? And it's funny because, like, plenty of people say Free Palestine is also anti-Semitic. So, no, I'm not fucking conceding on this. And I'm not giving ground to those who want to cynically weaponize a real problem, anti-Semitism, in an effort to deflect away from defending an apartheid ethno-state. It's fucking ridiculous. Like this is what I was talking about. Jordan Weissman says, one problem with 2020's left-wing activism is that people fight political battles to defend their slogans instead of picking slogans that actually help them win their political battles. Like, dog, this isn't 2020's left-wing activism, you fucking idiot. What are you talking about? Like, what is the optics argument here? What optics argument are we talking about? Like, what do you mean? This has been a slogan of Palestinian emancipation since the 60s. You are the one who claims it actually means genociding all of the Jews. And you try to desperately link it back to Hamas when Hamas's adoption of the slogan is because Hamas is also a Islamist fundamentalist, okay, for sure, and also a violent, militant reaction to the apartheid, sure. But they adopted that slogan because the slogan has existed far before they did. There's the standard right-wing tactic. If they have absolutely nothing, you invent it and put your opposition on the defensive. Hasbro 101. Yeah, 100%. Like, I understand that many people feel this is a historically important phrase and that they shouldn't have to retire, but the point of the political comms is that you need to communicate your message clearly. No, it's so fucking stupid, dude. I also think it's really dumb. When people liberals love getting hard about, like, oh, this sloganeering is wrong. And now I'm going to do everything I can. To just only talk about the slogan and what it means to me, okay? At least ultra-Zionists have the decency to be like, Palestinians are dogs. We have to fucking nuke them. I hate these fucking liberals who can't say that, but still want to defend the fucking Israeli position, which is that, Palestinians are dogs, we have to fucking ethnically cleanse them, by engaging in, like, semantics arguments over and over again while simultaneously battering you in the head over it. If you genuinely are a part of the cause, if you are for the movement, if you literally think that Palestinians deserve emancipation, that they do not deserve to live under an apartheid structure, okay, if you're this, like, liberal guy who cares about fucking human rights and shit, you wouldn't be weaving through the minutia of a fucking 70-year-old slogan. Not 70, but like 50-plus-year-old slogan. It's so stupid. The other side is so fucking stupid when you got Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, calling Palestinians human animals, when you have fucking Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party charter literally saying from the river to the sea that this belongs to Israel and the Jews, okay? This entire area belongs to Israel and the Jews, and nobody's fucking talking about any of that shit. It's always constantly trying to argue against those who are arguing for Palestinian emancipation from a cowardly way that you can't fucking actually defend a position, so you just move on to like the sloganeering. Like as though if Palestinians said, we would like to no longer, this is the new slogan, okay? From the river to the sea, it would be nice if we had a secular, democratic republic where we would be allowed to have a two-state solution, and then also on top of that, the West Bank settlements would not expand, and also maybe they would peacefully leave the West Bank settlements so we could have our own land in the 1967 boundaries. Like, is that a better... let's say that's the new slogan. Okay, a slogan is just a slogan. It's not what the fucking actual words are. Stop trying to bastardize the actual fucking words. But like, if that was the slogan, do you think Netanyahu would be like, oh shit, guys, it was the slogan. That's why I killed 10,000 Palestinians. That's why I killed almost 4,000 children. Fuck, if I knew that there was a new slogan, I wouldn't fucking do all of this. Except I know that that's not the case. You want to know why? Because the very same people that fucking complain about From the River to the Sea also complain about Free Palestine. They say Free Palestine is also something that Hamas has said, which means Free Palestine also means killing all the Jews. It's ridiculous. Don't fall for this fucking bait. All of these arguments over semantics are a means of distraction and deflection. I'm an Israeli. I did not know what the Free Palestine from the River to the Sea meant and was psychologically suggested that it's anti-Zionist. I came here, heard what the term means for people who use the term, and understood. I don't know why that's so fucking complicated for my people to do. Of course, I know why, though. You get my point. Yeah, I mean, but for Israelis to fucking have this opinion is one thing, but American liberals who fucking sit there and are like, oh, I hear you, I see you Palestinians, it's really wrong what's going on. 4,000 children, that makes me very sad. But if only you fix the slogan. That's what is completely and utterly ridiculous. Okay? If you were born into Israeli propaganda from the jump, of course you're going to be like, oh, dude, they want to kill all the Jews. Obviously, that's what I've heard my entire life. That's what I've been educated on my entire fucking life. Why? Because you have to be educated on that in order to never revolt against the repulsive actions of an apartheid regime. Yeah, the slogan is why white people didn't support BLM. Exactly. Yeah, the slogan is not the reason why white people didn't support Black Lives Matter. It was racism, okay? White supremacy is the real reason why white people did not support Black Lives Matter. Some cowardly liberals tried to make that exact same argument against Black Lives Matter, though. Why can't they use a better one? And then they go to fucking defund the police. They talk about all of these other slogans. It's like, dude, you know what the people's opinion is behind slogans. What are we? We have become a nation of marketing degrees. And that's the real problem. Everyone's got a fucking dumbass marketing degree, and they just want to like make that work. Like as though if we find the perfect, legally permissible, morally permissible slogan that has like, that leaves nothing to question, then magically the 75-year occupation will perish. Okay? The 75-year Palestinian plight will magically perish overnight.